The objectives of the International Chamber of Commerce are very clear. First of all, we have a purpose, which is to enable business worldwide to secure peace, prosperity, and opportunity for all. We have a mission, which is to make business work for everyone, every day, everywhere. And the way we do that is through 5 strategic approaches. The first is through actions to enable global trade, which is really part of the ICC's DNA, because we genuinely believe that trade across borders, enabling that, improves the prospect for peace and opportunity for all. The second area, which is really important, is respect for the rule of law and integrity. So that's really about make certain that judicial systems operate effectively and are free and open, but also importantly that we fight hard against corruption. The third area is that we want to do business in a planet that's actually sustainable. So we have a lot of effort and focus on enabling a sustainable future. The next area is the most important at the moment in terms of economic opportunity, which is making certain that that really key vector for the global economy, which is the digital economy, is enabled to operate to support businesses, and those businesses that can then support their communities and families. And the final one is really our experience is that if you want trade across borders and you want to solve the world's global problems, you've got to have effective multilateral systems and approaches in place. And so we spend a lot of time thinking through how you can create an effective multilateral system for the 21st century. Well, I think it's pretty clear to me that the economic policies of advanced economies will always have an impact and effect on the way in which global trade operates. What we want is for advanced economies to show real leadership here by continuing to support an effective multilateral trading system, which has real rule-based and actually enables fair and open access for all nations, but also provides, I think, very clear rules of the road to enable trade to operate. Not just trade in goods, but trade in services, and now enabling movement of data across borders as well. And importantly, if you make an agreement under the WTO, which is the curator of the multilateral trading system, you need to be able to enforce it. So you need to actually have some form of accountability process. So the advanced economies need to reassert their interest in that. At the moment, a lot of the advanced economies have instead been looking at protectionist policies, which have been interfering with the smooth and effective operation of global trade. We want them to change. Our fervent hope is that trade will actually start to push further forward in an upward trajectory. What we've seen over the last 12 months has been an improvement in global trade. That's partly because of the war in Ukraine, which is actually has caused inflation and has actually pushed up trade and goods numbers. But what's been pleasing is there's been the increase in trade and services. I think we all know that trade has been an important vector globally for economic growth. We're worried when we look at the trade forecast, the economic forecasts from the IMF, which sees economic growth moving around 3% and a bit, but that's not strong enough to continue to support economic opportunity for all. What we saw previously was that a critical driver of economic growth was the improvement in trade figures. We want trade to come back and to become one of the most important vectors to push economic growth up. So that's really important. And it's very important for emerging economies. So trade needs to actually find a pathway forward, which is supported by a removal of barriers to trade, an improvement in the opportunities for countries to trade across and companies to trade across borders. Well, it's an amazing year to have the G20 led from Latin America. Again, I was here when Argentina led the G20. Now we have Brazil leading the G20. And I think the interesting thing with the leadership of Brazil's G20 is that there's a level of ambition which we haven't seen for some time with the G20. So we're very supportive of that. And in fact, I was in Brazil, in Rio, at the launch of the B20, and then I was in Brasilia to discuss the G20 with the government officials. And what I said to them is that the 3 key objectives they have, which is to eradicate global hunger effectively by having an alliance against famine, move faster on climate-oriented policies by their action plan on having a 1.5 target, and actually working to ensure effective multilateralism. These are all objectives we share. But what we really want, what we really think is an opportunity here for Brazil, is to not have a rhetorical outcome, but to have specific deliverables that'll make a difference to people on a global basis. What are we going to do to remove global hunger? Well, we can make certain that there's access to food. So why don't we get the Russians to agree to continue to maintain the Black Sea Agreement that allows grain and sunflower to flow out of Ukraine so that we can ensure there's plenty of food available for developing and emerging economies. On sustainability, what are we going to do on sustainability, which is practical? Can we actually move forward on real outcomes? We're seeing the business community moving very fast, much faster than governments. We need governments to catch up now. And on effective multilateralism, don't we also have to look at the way the multilateral world operates? Look at things like the way in which macroprudential guidance and rulings occupy space which govern the way in which business can get access to finance. Don't we need to make certain during this year that they're relevant in the 21st century? Don't we need to remove some of the rules that are anachronistic? These are the sorts of things that we're arguing should be considered. They fit very much with the objectives of the Brazilian B20 and G20, but they're actually real concrete outcomes. We just don't want to communicate, which is agreed at the lowest common denominator. We want to call for action to actually shift the trajectory of the world back to economic growth and opportunity.